member Teal Troll a few minutes to get here. Otherwise, it'll just be the two of us. I'd like to just give her some time to get here. Good morning, everyone. We are now calling to order the Board of Cosmetology Law Review Subcommittee, April 10th at 9:12 a.m. We're going to go ahead and start with roll call. Myself, Brian Baltazar, Vice President.
I'm Kai Stanton, Board Member.
Gary Landry, Executive Director.
I guess David Scarpelli, Inspector.
Pamela Fitzgerald, Inspector.
Leah Easter, Compliance Coordinator.
Monica Bradford, Administrative Specialist.
Up north.
Charlie Marsh, Inspector.
Ronnie Moore, Inspector.
Leah Cartwright, Cosmetology Board Lobbyist.
Anyone else?
Valerie Luis, Millen Institute of Cosmetology. And just moving on.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And if I could all have you stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for the reading of our mission statement. The mission of the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of those that obtain cosmetology-related services through... Wait, are we reading the new... Is this a new one?
Yeah, the new one's on your desk.
Oh, so we're implementing this now? Okay, sorry about that. Related services through the delivery of quality testing, licensing, inspection, and education services that focus on consumer protection. And now moving on to comments by the general public. If we have any comments first starting here in Southern Nevada.
I actually have a comment it's from Bonnie Schultz. She sent an email in. I just want to read it. I will not be able to attend the Tuesday law review meeting because of work. However, I'd like it to be known that I am totally against lowering our standard of education regardless of what other states are doing. I know from my past experience that the board will do what it wants regardless of our input, so my absence will not be missed. Bonnie Schultz.
Any additional comments?
Is this the time I speak?
No, if you want to speak on a specific, like estheticians, it'll be the
Okay.
next one.
Gotcha.
Any general comments from the public up north? Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, review and possibly formulate revisions for submission to the legislature to analyze the aesthetics curriculum and investigate whether the scope needs to be broadened. The Law Subcommittee will discuss the aesthetics curriculum and whether the scope needs to be broadened before the hours are reduced from 900 to 600 hours.
She wants to speak.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Carol.
Now's the time.
Now's the time.
Thank you for that. My name is Carol Westfall, and I own G Skin and Beauty Institute, and we're located in 3 states, in Illinois, in Nevada, and in Arizona. And in Illinois, we have a 750-hour program, in Nevada, 900, as you know, and in Arizona, a 600-hour program. And we train so totally different than the last time that we had 600 hours in the state, because I was here then. And we're now training for medical spas, hospitals, resorts and spas. As you know, Las Vegas is the king of resort spas and $1 million spas that they put together, right? Destination spas, salon and spas, day spas, doctor's offices. In fact, I got a letter from a doctor 2 weeks ago. He wrote it himself, saying, could we get another one of your students, because they're so well trained, for what we need in our office. Now, I'm not talking, I have no idea what other schools do here. I have no idea at all. I'm not talking for another school, I'm only talking for myself, okay? So I'm not wanting to put any school down whatsoever because I don't know even what other schools train in. But I know for a fact that ingredients alone have changed so much. What they have to know now for ingredients, I'm still learning ingredients, and I've been training for years in ingredients. It's not something that you can now have. Back when we used to have the 600-hour program, we all had, maybe one, whether it was Dermalogica or one of those, and they would come in and they would train in ingredients for us. All of us did that. And they'd have 1 hour whenever we could book them, right? Now we have got 2 months of ingredients. They have to learn ingredients because it's changing so much. Walgreens is hiring people behind their counters that they want to know and understand ingredients. The doctor's offices want the students to understand ingredients. I could go on and on. You have to be able to talk intelligently about the products you're using. The customers out there know now. They're not like they were back when we had a 600-hour program here. Nowadays, these customers come in so well educated because of the internet. They want to understand, what's in the products that we're putting on them. They understand that your skin is absorbing these products. And so they know that. And they understand that as much as, and so we have to train our students to be able to talk intelligently to them about every product that's out there that they can learn while they're in school, and they keep learning. You can't quit learning because it changes all the time. So, and then there's the e-training that we give now that we never used to have to give. We have to make sure that when somebody gets out of school that they know how to go on and how to start a salon and have that salon going 5 years from now. How do they compete with other salons that maybe are chain salons that have all this knowledge behind them with, big data, and, how do they compete on the internet with them? We have to train them in this, okay? So I just feel it's so important. I'm so passionate about cosmetology, aesthetics, and nails because I want to give you a little background. I know I can only talk for a few minutes. But I wanted to be a cosmetologist years ago, and my father said, absolutely not. You've got to go to school where, you can learn a living with something. So you're going to either be a nurse or a teacher. So I became a nurse, right? My sisters all became teachers. And after I became a cosmetologist, I went back to school. The poor man never forgave me. But anyway, I went back to school, became a cosmetologist, and then started schools on my own. And so my sisters that were teachers became cosmetologists. My sister-in-law was a teacher. She became a cosmetologist. And they absolutely love the field and are still doing it. So I am so passionate about what I do. And to think about changing the program just breaks my heart. What they have to learn now in order to compete with big business is unbelievable. And, in Arizona, we do have a 600-hour program, but they're only learning 2/3 of the program, So now we're having to come out with another 300 hours that they have to pay cash for in order to come and learn the rest of the program so they can compete in the doctor's offices and out there in the medical spas and, Las Vegas, let's face it, my goodness, you're the capital of the world here with your destination spas. They can't be... they have to be a step above. And that's, so this is how I feel. I feel very strong about it.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, she actually answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you, how was the programs differing from your 600-hour program with them doing lesser hours to the ones that we have here? But you've already answered that for me because you have to do so much more within that timing.
Mm-hmm. So I also have a question. How is it that you're able to prepare the student to work in a medical spa, because their scope is a little bit different than what our scope is here in the Valley, where there are things that they can't do, laser, they can't do dermaplaning, they can't do those things.
Exactly.
So, that additional 300 hours, where are they spending that if you're preparing them for the doctor's office or the medical spa or that kind of thing.
We do the theory in it, so that if we don't do the actual naturally, because it'd be against the law, we don't do that, and we don't train in that, but we do the theory of it. So when they get out, they absolutely know the theory and what to look for and how to talk to the doctors about it and how to, then train under the doctors.
So I would say, in essence, the same customer that is coming into the salon that has that experience of product and branding and things like that are the same people that we are actually bringing into our schools, because our students are coming versed as well, and that's their expectation, is that they're going to get that ingredients, they're going to get that advanced training and theoretical experience with regards to what's happening, current trending and things like that. So those are the students that we're actually capturing today versus, like you said, when the program was 600 hours ago. So I have to say, I'm an advocate for the reduction in hours. I'm from Euphoria. My name is Benita. I'm an advocate for the reduction in hours, knowing that. Now, I'm an advocate for keeping it at 900 hours as well, and I can speak for my colleagues if the scope is going to broaden and we're going to be able to educate our students on practical applications in that medical experience. But if the scope isn't going to broaden, and you're saying that we need to teach theoretical, I believe that probably every institute in here is teaching theoretical, but it's about being able to put their hands on that, and they can in the scope that we're in right now. So if we're gonna keep it at 900, I'm speaking on behalf of Euphoria Institute, then I say we need to broaden the scope. If we're not going to broaden the scope, then our position is reduce it to 6.
Reduce it, and then allow for opportunities for the students possibly to have postgraduate training in lasers and more advanced treatments that are trending, that are in demand in the industry today, in the med spas and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
The problem with that is that the students have to pay then out of their own pocket. There's nowhere for them to borrow the money to go and learn this. That's part of the problem with that. I would love to see it broaden myself, because right now our hands are tied. We train them. They can go and work and they tell us we can't train in this and we can't train in that, and you can't do this and you can't do this in a regular spa. However, you can go work for a doctor and not learn any more than you're learning right from us, and you can do all of these things under them legally, right?
Yes.
And nurses who get absolutely no training in it can do it legally. So there is, there's definitely a problem, I feel.
Up north?
I'm Valerie from Lawn Institute of Cosmetology. I wonder if Southern Nevada has the same issue that Northern Nevada has with students being able to drop our program at 600 hours and go test in California, and then come right back over to Nevada with the reciprocity of not requiring any experience, no practical testing, and be able to get their license in Nevada. So I too support the reduction of 600 hours unless we're going to broaden the scope and make the 900-hour program something that is advanced.
Something that's
Because
attractive.
right now it's not advanced other than theoretically. And my students can leave at 600 hours to get a California license.
Ours do that too. It's very common. Very common.
So I would also suggest that we're going to keep it at 900 hours, but we discuss reciprocity. Because right now it doesn't work the way it is.
Very good point.
Hi guys, good morning. Sorry I'm a few minutes late this morning. So my name's Liberty. I'm the director over at the Palm Beach School in Las Vegas here. So we too are in favor of the reduction of the aesthetics program. I think in the last meeting that I was at, I stressed a point, some of my concerns and my reasons for that. I believe I received an email from you, and I appreciate the email that was sent out to all the schools, expressing your concerns. I think they are genuine. However, the reason why we are in favor of the reduction is a few things. And when I say that, I say it blanketly because, as an industry as a whole, we do have to support each other and look at our students' best interests as well as us as business owners and directors in our schools, because we know that running a school is not an easy thing to do, right? But the reasons for why we believe in the reduction, one, simply stating, I've heard a couple times in an email that, financial aid is the reason why we want to keep those number of hours longer so that they can obtain that financing. We don't believe in that. We've been fighting hard gainful employment at Washington, here in our states, in other states. We've been spending a lot of dollars on gainful employment, deregulation, and so we are concerned about the students' quality of education, not so much how they pay for school. I think every student that's going to go to school needs to understand that there is a cost associated with going to school, and how they choose to utilize federal funding or out-of-pocket payment is their choice. Now, as a business, we're going to have to reevaluate our cost of what we charge students to go to school. That's going to be in line and fair to the consumer and as well as to us to be profitable in order to sustain our business. So I don't agree with keeping the number of hours so that students can obtain the maximum number of financial aid. I don't believe in that at all. The second thing is, if we reduce the number of hours to 600 hours, you guys, that's just a minimum number of hours that the state requires to obtain your esthetician license. So if you feel strongly that your program warrants a 900-hour program, then you can keep your program 900 hours. The rest of us who feel that 600 hours would be adequate within our curriculum to teach our students the program, we can then meet the minimum standards. But if you feel strongly that we have a strong aesthetics program and we offer A, B, and C in addition in comparison to other schools, then that's awesome, and that's what your program can be, right? You can elect that, but the minimum would be 600 hours. The third thing is, in the last meeting that we had, I asked the question of, a few years ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, the program was 600 hours and then it was bumped to 900 hours, and I wasn't part of that changing process at that time. But we couldn't identify why there was an increase at that time from 600 to 900. Not one person in the room recalled why we even increased the number of hours, which was alarming to me. Because if we increased at that time, we must have saw it valid at that time. Now, if I recall, it was because we were having a lot of boutique individual schools that could come in and not be part of the cosmetology establishment requirements, that they could come in and open a nail-only school or a skin-only school or a makeup, and we wanted to increase it to possibly make it a little bit more challenging for them. I still don't think that was reason enough for the consumer side. Now, again, I'm on the business side, but the consumer side didn't make any sense of why we increased to 900 hours, okay? So I'm trying to be fair to the consumer and the end user. 4, again, hands-on versus theory. I think the person in Reno and also you, I'm much more of get in there and get that hands out. We know our audience today, our market students today want to get in, get a trade. They want to get out there, need to make money. We need them to pay back their student loans, right? The longer we keep them in school, the harder we make it for them, the less opportunities they receive, the more drops we have. We have to look at what does our audience need in the quality of education, give that to them so they can successfully complete the program, obtain employment, and pay back their student loans, which is huge for all of us in this room. As far as additional programs, I'm a strong advocate, and I think all of us know, having the schools, that you're going to need continuing education. It's up to you as a professional to decide what that elevation in your career is going to be, whether it be to pursue medical spa training or advanced derma training. That's up to them. We as a school, we provide the foundation. If we look at all that advanced training, we could look at the Cosmo program and rip that apart and say we could do X, Y, Z more too, right?
3,000 hours.
Correct, and so very much like I was when we reduced the cosmetology program, I'm that way with the aesthetics program, and then lastly, what my argument has been is, if you really think about the number of hours, okay, now we have 1,600 hours for cosmetology program, we just reduced that, but we're asking 900 hours for the skin program, which means the difference between skin and hair program is what? 700 hours. However, if I'm a student, now in that 700 hours, in that 700 hours, we're not really required, but at a time there was like 70 or 80 hours of skin. In a full cosmetology program, less than 100 hours of skin. But yet to get your own skin license, we have to do 900 hours? Where's the gap of 800 hours? This makes no sense at all. From running a school or attending a school, it makes no sense at all. So I strongly believe and agree with the ones who have spoken about reduction in the program. I understand you're very passionate about what you do. My recommendation, not just my opinion, is if we feel the 600 hours is adequate, you feel passionate about your 900-hour program, and that's what you need to, offer that program, then you can do that. Am I correct, Gary, in saying the minimum is 600, but you can offer? Now, from my understanding, I've done some research, is if you choose to go in the elect along the program, your students can qualify based off of financial aid, based off the number of hours that you provide to them. Okay, that's my opinion.
Could I ask you, do you train in aesthetics?
Do we train in aesthetics? We do train in aesthetics. To have a cosmetology school, we do have to train in aesthetics.
I understand that, but do you have just an aesthetic program?
We don't have an aesthetics program, but we are looking at possibly having an aesthetics program in the future.
And just wanted to announce that Board Member Tia Luttrell has joined us.
Sorry I'm late. I guess I'm the only one who didn't get the memo about the spaghetti bowl, so. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's John Grieco. I represent the Academy of Hair Design Beauty School right here in Las Vegas. We've been around for a long time, 47 years. That's going on 5 decades. It's pretty good. And we were around for the transition from 600 hours to 900 hours on the esthetician program. And we were here, and I think the original owners of Euphoria were the ones who, and they were on the board at the time, and they pushed it to 900 hours. So we went along with the program, and so we were around for the 600 hours. And in the last, I think it's been 8 or 9 years, that extra 300 hours is a burden to the student. And just like Liberty said, I mean, I'm going to mirror what you said. It was well said, by the way, really well said. And we've had the program. We've had it at 6, and we've had it the last 8, 9 years at 900. And we're producing about the same student at 600 hours, at 900 hours. And it's really become burdensome and a drag on the student. And what the curriculum offers right now for 600 hours, okay, is just a good number, okay? Nothing less, nothing more. And like I said, we've had it for the last 8, 9 years for the additional 300, and we can produce a dynamite student at 600 hours. That extra 300 hours becomes a financial burden, time-consuming, and we've got to the point where we used to have, and we still have for all the other programs, half-time, three-quarters time, full-time, and we've now reduced this program to just full-time only because it's become just a financial burden to them. It has nothing to do with financial aid. It's what we can produce at the quickest time for them to go to market, have minimum debt, and hit entry level running. And so I'm really a proponent of dropping it back down to 600. We tried, and I'm just telling you right now, that additional 300 is just a burden to the student. And we're all about placing the student and what's best for the student. So my position is I'd like to see it drop back down to 600. We tried as far as the academy is concerned. It didn't work.
Any additional comments, board members? Questions?
No, I think everything was very well said so far.
I did a lot of thinking about this, and do we have to say our name and everything? So?
I think so.
Okay, so Michelle McCormick.
Miss Spaghetti Bowl.
Yeah, Spaghetti Bowl. As an aesthetic student, I went to Euphoria, and I do echo what is being said as far as the hours. There comes a point where you've learned what you're going to learn, and I feel like we were just doing clinic. And as much as hands-on experience is important, after you've done, after you're basically showing up to do these services, you're ready to get out there and start making some money. And I find that what happens is people start to risk, and start doing freelance services. They're trying to I just want to get through school, but I still need to make some money. And so I just don't think we should hold on to students longer than we need to. But I also think that in tandem with that, we really need to, I can't express enough the need for continuing education. Because I do believe that just like with formal education, you go and you get your associates, you get your, whatever base education. But if you want to specialize in something, then you go get that education. and you pursue becoming a specialist in something. So for me, I became a licensed esthetician, and I've never done a facial a day in my life after school. I went directly into lash extensions, opened up my business, started doing. So I see that there are people who get into going for their license because they are passionate about one thing, and I just don't think that we should hold them longer. I think we should give them the opportunity to develop their education kind of as they see fit, and that's just my personal opinion on it.
And I just believe that us as schools, if we're offering them the base education, and I understand that they're not able to give financial aid for shorter term programs, but part of staying vital in this business is investing in your future, and sometimes to have a little bit of skin in the game, where it's not coming from the government or it's not coming from a Pell Grant, to have a little skin in the game really, really weeds out the key players in this industry versus the people that are just here to turn a quick buck or take advantage of Title IV funds. We see that all the time. And so, I feel that, we have students of from all different socioeconomic backgrounds at our school, and sometimes the ones that pay cash or have a larger cash payment, they are way more passionate about what they're doing because they feel that every single month and they really, really want it. Not to say that we don't have students that are receiving full Title IV and Pell that aren't just as passionate about it, but sometimes it's important to get someone's buy-in to make sure that they really, really do want something. I value the things that I work very, very hard for and pay for a lot more than the things that were handed to me on a silver platter. That's just my opinion.
Well, can I say something about that? I certainly don't see them changing it at a 4-year college. Okay, I definitely do not. I don't see them changing their program. I see them still insisting on the students going for 4 years to school, borrowing all kinds of money, right? They couldn't go to college otherwise, most of them. So what does that differ from the trade schools? Why are we not supposed to be able to have them be able to borrow money so that they can go to school? Because we're a trade school, we're different than the colleges?
Well, they're able to borrow money to go to school.
Yeah, they're able to borrow money.
But
reducing it from 900 to 600 hours does not take away their ability to borrow money to attend
but
school.
it takes away quite a bit of their financial aid.
No, it's based on the number of your hours of your program. So if we
I
choose to go
understand
600,
that.
be 600. If you choose to keep 900, nothing would change for
Yeah,
you.
they're getting, well, I understand that. But I'd hate to see the license itself change. What I'm saying is, students go to 4-year university. I mean, I finished college, all right? There were many classes I didn't need and I will never use, but they made me take it, right? This happens down the line. I don't see them reducing who they are, but we're a trade school, so we are supposed to reduce. It doesn't make sense to me. It really does not make sense to me. Why not give them the ability to borrow the money that they will need to finish the program? They don't all have the ability to have the cash to finish the program.
I think that the key problem here is that this state was 600 forever, and then it changed to 900, but we were given no more ability to offer more information to the students. Therefore, we're basically robbing the students of 300 hours worth of tuition, because we're not enabled to give them, aside from a theoretical standpoint, which is ever-changing and ever-evolving, and we grow with that, we get it, but to give the student, the type of students that we're teaching are the ones that require hands-on, get your hands dirty type of training, we're not able to offer them the ability to do that. If we were given the ability to do that, I think that everyone unanimously in this room would agree to keep it at 900 hours. But the problem is that we've all been around since 600 was the requirement, and we had jumped to 900, and we're basically just trying to fill. We're trying to add things in to keep them from being bored, and it's not really working.
So what we're actually saying here is that what we really need to do is look at being able to change the scope of services that we can actually offer these students, even if we keep it at 900 hours. Mm-hmm. Secondarily, there are people who are looking at our students to hire them. What are they actually looking for? If they are looking for the extra microdermaplaning and this and that and the other, that means that we should be offering and being able to offer those programs to our students, because we have to make them a viable individual to be able to go to these offices and work. You know, not giving it to them a la carte, whereas we do a 600-hour program, then the student has to go back in here and get into further debt so that we can teach them how to do those things.
And let's be honest, you know, doctors' offices aren't really hiring, unless someone knows someone, they're not really hiring students right out of school, whether they have 600 hours or 900
Oh,
hours.
that's not true. That is absolutely not true.
Well, okay.
That is not true.
So then can we get some statistics on this and maybe look at it? As to, you said that people are always, doctors are hiring your students and this, that, and the other, and so forth. So I'm saying, what about some numbers? Some numbers. That's just like, I know that on a lot of these programs, Ms. Wynn was like, why don't we look at what the curriculum would look like going from this one to this one? So that means that, okay, some of us may have to do a little homework on some of this research. You say, I step back. But we got to have some numbers before we go in here and change something.
The only thing I would say, just coming from the working with the legislators, and when we propose something, if we're going to propose something that does anything that will conflict with the doctor's ability to practice their trade, I can tell you it will not go. Anytime we've come anywhere close to that, anytime we had anything that they thought we were doing something that was going to go into their trade, they shut it down. They don't want anyone doing anything that will conflict with their operation. And not all of them use cosmetologists or estheticians, but they all want to have the ability to practice
and train
and do the things that they need to do outside of the realm of anyone else.
And they carry a little bit more weight up there than we do.
And what they're teaching.
Exactly.
And so we can't, use some of these things that these doctors would rather like train and teach for.
Correct.
And that's important to notice because some of these things that are being mentioned are high dollar trainings, and you start messing with those, and you're gonna.
And so you have the people who do like you said, that do this extra training and come in and teach them. They're going to be against it. I can tell you the doctors get. I got calls from 4 or 5 different doctor associations when we just pushed a little bit on one of the things we're looking at, like dermabrasion. They wanted to shut everything that we're doing down. They were going to try and shut the whole cosmetology program down if we tried pushing that. So that's just the fight we have to go through. I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm not saying we can't push it, but to get it through, it's not going to be an easy walk through the park like the last couple of sessions I've had. It's going to take some real tough pushing, and I don't know if we have the push necessary that is going to fight the doctors, because the doctors donate lots of money to the politicians.
Yeah. They got louder voices up there than we do.
Yep.
Have we discussed what like our neighboring schools are at already? As someone already mentioned that they reduced their hours compared to ours.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the norm right now in the United States for estheticians is 600. Mm-hmm. That's by far, and that's pretty uniform across. Can't remember the number. It's like 35 or 40 states have 600 or less. Some have less than 600, which is a little scary. But most of them are at 600 hours across the board. They do have a couple of 750s, and then we're at 900. There's maybe a couple of the states that are at 900.
But the trend right now is more 6. I think my concern also, and we've all said this, is when we're fighting against a culture of deregulation, and we look like we are not willing to change with not only our neighboring schools and what is being asked in our neighboring schools, and people are going and getting their license, getting out into the workforce, and we're holding them for a longer period of time. If we're not able to justify that time, that is a big disadvantage for our
yeah, it looks like we're just stealing $300 worth of money from them.
Yeah.
And that's the question you had asked earlier, if we have an esthetician program. We had an esthetician program when it was the 600, but when it was moved to 900, we didn't feel we wanted to continue on because it didn't justify, it didn't make any sense to continue on with that program. And this is not to put anybody on the spot, but I'd love to know, especially we're in the same city here, how many people are actively involved in the deregulation, the gainful employment, the Washington D.C. meetings. We're just in Washington 2 weeks ago, going back a week again, working with lobbying and spending a lot of money in trying to protect all of us as an industry in whole. And the Capitol Hill want nothing more than to deregulate and to break down financial aid because they don't feel cosmetology, esthetician, any of it is a true program. So when we are talking about financial aid, it's a very sensitive topic. It is very sensitive, and our goal is not to get in the middle of how they pay for school. Our goal is to make sure that we provide an adequate education and curriculum that's going to set them up to be able to obtain their licensing and to get them employed. If they use Title IV, because you can choose to not be a Title IV school, but if you use Title IV, you have a responsibility to make sure that those students are able to obtain employment to pay back their student loans. So again, like my colleagues here, if you can justify why, then I'm all open to it. But for me, in the last 2 years of going through all of this and working heavily with all of it, it makes no sense. Now, I think last time we had a sheet of all the states that listed all the hours, and also someone even recommended, which I thought was a great idea if you want to go that route, is a basic program and an advanced program. So you can choose to go to the basic program of 600 hours or an advanced program of whatever you choose in your school to set that criteria up. But I just don't believe in holding back a student any more than they need to, or assuming that every student that goes into aesthetics wants to go into it for facials or laser or anything like that. Some students really just want to go in for lash extension. Some students just really want to go for one scope of work. And so it's not a la carting it, but it's listening to your market and making sure that you're being mindful in your program.
But in cosmetology, some students may only want to do color, so are we going to train them just in color?
No,
Or
so
do we have to train them in every thing so they understand the scope of the business when they get out, so that they can support themselves, so that they can understand how to deal and how to work against some of these huge spas that they have to work against in order to start their own business? I'm a woman in business, right? I started my business many, many years ago, and let me tell you, it wasn't easy. We have to help these students learn and understand how to deal out there and how to make, if they want to go into their own business, we've got to help them.
Oh, I understand
Otherwise,
that.
they're going to go out of business.
I come from a family of
It's not
hairdressers.
that
My mother's been a hairdresser for 35 years. My brother's a hairdresser. My 3 sisters are hairdressers. I'm a hairdresser. My daughter's an esthetician. We own 8 salons, 4 beauty supply stores, a lash and hair extension company. So I'm very, very experienced. I've been director for 9 years. I'm very, very insightful of what we do in the industry as a business, because I too am a business owner, and so I want to make sure that we can protect and sustain ourselves as an industry and a business. But I also too look at the student from the consumer standpoint and make sure that we are protecting them as well. Otherwise, if we don't protect them and we don't help them, you said it yourself earlier, that you go to college and you take these courses that you don't need to because they tell you to, and so you have to pay to. But you're in a position today to make a difference, to use your voice and use your empowerment to make a difference for students in our industry. Why have them go through classes that may not be necessary? Why charge them fees and funds that might not be necessary? You're in a position to help this industry, help this program.
Right. Do you feel the same way about cosmetology? Because we
So
can certainly break that up. That's
We
not a problem.
absolutely can, and so I've been present in those conversations. So cosmetology is what? Is a scope of hair, skin, and nails. Now, I don't stipulate what cosmetology involves, but cosmetology, if I understand hair is everything. Hair is texture, hair is color, hair is cutting, hair is finishing and style. So we can break down cosmetology, but I believe we're talking about aesthetics right now.
And I think everyone, this is Kai Stanton, I'm sorry. I think everyone, for your comments, and we do take all of the information and we do assess things accordingly, and your voices are very valuable. So we do appreciate everyone having the courage and taking the time to break down the information accordingly and allowing us to see what your stance is, especially being active in the schools dealing with our wonderful students. So thank you. The Vice President, did you want to say something?
No, pretty much just echoing exactly what you said. I think I do appreciate you coming here and voicing your concerns, but it sounds like generally we're moving in that direction, and there's a myriad of reasons why we're moving in that direction, from being unable to expand the scope, from ensuring that we protect ourselves from possible deregulation, which we are hearing that. I work in the political field, and so I am hearing those conversations on a daily basis. We are being specifically targeted. So I think just in order to protect this industry and the state, mirroring what some of our western states have is the best defense as of right now. So I would like us to move forward with the reduction in hours. Do we motion, or how does?
You can ask for any other comments. If there are no more comments, then you can move to say that we'll bring it on to the board. This, what the process that we go through, this is a discussion that we're having. It will go forward to the board with a recommendation to reduce or not to reduce. That recommendation will then be considered by the board at a public meeting. You'll have another chance to comment and voice your opinions. And at that time, the board will say we are going to or not going to reduce hours. And then that'll be done. That'll be given to me to bring to the lobbyists and start working with legislators. We already have 2 legislators lined up for next session. We've got a third one we're working on. We'll probably get her or get the legislator working with us, and it will be a combination of Republicans and Democrats. It'll be a mix of both of them all together sponsoring the bill. So I feel very comfortable we'll have a good team behind us. It's just I can't tell you what to do or how to do it. I just take what you do and I bring it to the legislators, and we work with them to get it onto a bill.
And the paper that Monica just passed out, if everybody looks at it, is the breakdown of the states and what they require from 1,000 hours in aesthetics all the way down. And I believe that on this one there was about 28 states that had a 600-hour program. I think the average minimum on the back of the page was 621.5. 2, I'm sorry.
I'm from Alaska. I should have done this. I'm born and raised in Alaska. I really should have done this at home, but quite frankly, at 350.
Do we have any additional comments down here in the south or in the north? So do we have a motion to accept the proposed reduction in hours?
Taylor Trump McCormick, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposed reduction of aesthetics hours to 600.
This is Kai Stanton. I second that motion.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, we are moving on to agenda item 6, review and possibly formulate revisions for submission to the legislature to analyze the nail technology curriculum and investigate whether the scope needs to be broadened. A reduction in hours from 600 to 400 hours. So we are open to discussion.
So kind of like we have the numbers for aesthetics and we have the number for cosmetology. I must have misplaced the numbers for nail technicians in our system.
The numbers of hours that
Yeah.
are required per state.
Yeah.
It's actually the last listing.
It's the last one? Did I miss that? Oh, thank you. Okay. So we're going to 4. I think this was the one that we were talking about, yeah. Does anyone have a lot of experience in their, or do you want to speak to the experience of their nail programs, or?
Go for it, Chad.
Well, we have the nail program. I have to say, by again, when we talk about when the hours were increased, it's the same scenario for the nail technology program as it is for the aesthetics program. It wasn't like we added all these different modalities to the program. It still became you learned natural nail and enhancements, and so. I would say, again, speaking for Euphoria, we are certainly in agreement of the reduction of hours. I think the average, when you look at the states, the average or the national is 383. So going back to what we were, or even at 400, we're okay with the 400. Again, it gets the student, the end user, out in the industry much faster. So that they can, make a living. It really is ultimately, when we talk about trades, it's not about if I choose to go to a 4-year institution, that's my choice as a consumer. If I choose to take a trade, my ideal of taking a trade, which I did, and most of you in here went to trade school, cosmetology, aesthetics, nail technology, was to get in, get out, get working, period.
But when we look at it, actually, with a 300-hour program, how much of that textbook are you actually covering? In nail technology, I understand about the enhancements and doing the naturals, but there is always something that is always coming up new
Gels, acrylics,
for them to do. They've just moved from acrylics. Now they're back into gels, and every time you turn around, there's something new, and these things take time. The thing of it is that on all of these programs, we have to look at the student. And the problem is, a lot of times, our students are not the type that we were. A lot of our older teachers who made us dress in white would turn over in their grave at the way in which our students are today. They don't have the attention spans. Come on now.
It's true.
But the thing of it is that's even in our regular program, we have to go out and do some special things with our students because of IEPs, this, that, and the other, and so forth, which also goes in giving them more time. The way that our curriculum is set up is that the way we teach theory to them, we really just basically get through the book, the theory book, with them having practical afterwards. We can speak it all day long about financial aid, this, that, and the other. However, for all of you all who also went to universities, I don't know what your parents' finances were, but in most cases, all of us needed a little bit of help. We have to be a little careful, and I get reducing the hours, but we have to keep it at a threshold, whereas the students can get some help. When I went, for some reason, I thought we were poor, but the federal government said that you were not poor, and your parents and you need to contribute this much to your education, which we had to do. But I'm not saying that it was not a burden on our family. We want to get out there, we want to go in there, we want to be work, but we have to make sure that every single thing that we look at, whether we change scopes of services, this, that, and the other, is going to make the students successful out here. We've got to make sure that they're successful.
Most definitely, and I would never suggest that because I paid cash to go to school. I had to work. I worked full-time as a student back in the day, and I've been in the business over 30 years now. And at the end of the day, we talk about putting skin in the game. Maybe had I not put some skin in the game, maybe I wouldn't be in the game today. I'm just saying. So with that being said, to hold the student back, and nobody's saying take it to 300. I think the ideal is to go to 400 for the nail technology. Nobody's saying that. And at the end of the day, for us, when we reduce the number of hours to 1,600 hours, the tuition was adjusted according to those hours. So it wasn't that the student was that they didn't have access to Title IV, or they had to get a part-time job, or they had to take out a loan from the bank. However they paid for it, ultimately, I agree. It's not about our business as an institution to figure out how the student's going to pay for it. That's their business. What we're going to do is give them the education that they're paying for. So wherever they get their money from, that's on them. At the end of the day, though, to say to a student that, no, what I perceive to be, what you need, we want to give them their foundation. I don't know about you. I came from a state that requires continuing education as a professional, not just as an educator, but as a licensed professional. I had to have CEUs. So that's the same concept, for a student that's going to come in and get their fundamentals and then get their continuing education as they hone their craft. So I'm just speaking for Euphoria that we are in certain favor of the reduction from 600 to 400.
And I just want to add in too that when we look at the national numbers, I think that to be strong as a nation, to be strong as in the fight against deregulation, we all need to be closer to the same page than to have the numbers all up and down and all over the place. Because with that, it just says to the legislators, it just says to Washington, well, why does it only take 1,000 hours in the state of New York to become a cosmetologist, and it takes 1,600 in Nevada, and it takes 2,000? It's like, what is so different? Cosmetology is cosmetology is cosmetology. It shouldn't matter what state you're in. So I think in order for us to be stronger as a state, as a nation, as an industry, we need to kind of get this in line with what's going on all over the place, because if not, it just gives them more fuel, the legislators that want to deregulate us, to do just that.
Well, I know not too long ago they went into Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And they went to Texas and they wanted to go in there and do a lot of deregulation. And I'm looking at the hours of Texas. Texas has basically the same hours that we have, with a couple of them that are a little shorter. However, those Texans got together and ran them folks up out of there. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right.
And they stopped the deregulation in their state.
They wanted to drop the cosmetology to 1,000 hours.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just 15. This is John again from the Academy of Hair Design. Again, we've been around for some time, so we saw the manicuring hours go from 500 hours to 600 hours. And speaking on behalf of the Academy, we've been able to generate a better student with that extra 100 hours from 500 to 600. So our vote and our position is we would like to generate a much better student. That extra 100 hours is really good for the clinic or the student-run salon part of it. We have a good, strong clientele patronage, and we think that extra 100 hours, especially nowadays with the amount of technology that's out there and requirement, that extra 100 hours is very, very beneficial. And I tell you, we have a hard time getting through the book at 500 hours. But at 600 hours, that seems to be the magic number. So our position is to maintain it at 600 hours, and we feel we'll produce a better student, and that's what it's all about.
This is Kai Stanton. Is there anyone that would like to make any comments in the northern end?
Valerie from Lawn Institute, and we are in agreement to keep the 600. I believe that it's a sufficient amount of time to get through the theory material that is required in time. I would be concerned by shortening it, that we would be able to get through all the necessary theory that goes with this program to make a better student and a safe student, because we know that nail technology is one area in our scope that infectious diseases can be spread quite rapidly. So I believe that for infection control and safety for the client and the public, 600 hours is exactly where we need to be.
And if we go back in and look, if I am not mistaken, almost most of our board meetings that are held at Grant Sawyer, the largest number of individuals who are always coming in there with infractions, this, that, and the other, infection problems, and so forth and so on, are nail technologists.
Sure enough.
Yep. That's where the problem lies.
Keep in mind, a lot of those have gotten their licenses in our state through out-of-country or reciprocity laws that are very comfortable for them. So we can't test them on their skills. So we just have to hope that the licensing board that gave them their original license has done their protocol. So we also, it's not necessarily your students that are graduating and not using their career knowledge on how to take care of their customers. It could be a lot of people that, because of our own laws in our state, have come in from a different state whose regulatory boards may not be as stringent.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what you're saying. So I guess what you're saying again is, this can of worms up. To echo Ms. McCormick, I already know. Here we go. I already know that we have where you have to do your infection control online as a continuing education class. Then maybe, just maybe, we better look at
There you go.
going in, having people testing stuff. it's a problem with the reciprocity. Having people test and maybe doing some extra stuff. I'm just saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this, but we've got to look at something because most of our time at the board meetings are set up on these situations. A lot of the time when the inspectors go out, this, that, and the other, and so forth, I don't know what we can do, but I know with our leader and our executive director, maybe our board and the executive directors and people around the table can come up and think of something that we need to do about this, because that's a big problem that we're having. But for our institute, we really don't want to lower the hours from 600. We'll look at it. There's no problem with it. My boss is open to a whole bunch of different suggestions. And as that Washington thing, she's out fighting this week. That's why she's not here.
So, Liberty, Carol, do you have any opinions on this particular subject?
So in regards to the Now Technology program, I too agree with them that a lot of the times when I'm seeing the board meetings that are coming out, a lot of it is the safety, sanitation, Now Technology control. I think when the hours were moved from 500 to 600 hours, I wasn't very clear on that because we also had a Now Technology program at that time, why there was a change in it. I understand the gels and the different types of procedures that are coming out and stuff, but I'm not very specifically clear on why that was increased to 100 hours. When you're talking about, someone was talking about finances and financial aid earlier, I believe the minimum hours to be able to offer financial aid is 450 hours to have in a program. So that might just be something to throw out there so everybody reconsiders that. I don't have an opinion on reducing or changing it because I've not been shown what was the reason why we changed that extra 100 hours. However, based off of just the past few years and going through the whole change of cosmetology, reducing those hours and seeing the board meetings, I agree with the safety and sanitation part that seems to be the hot topic of conversation.
I'm pretty neutral on it. I just wanted to point out that the national average is 383, and for there to be such a disparity, but I'm pretty comfortable at 600. I really don't have an opinion either way. Aside, I just wanted to point out that.
But Carol, let me ask you a question. Some of these other states, because I know that you have schools in multiple states, some of those programs that are at 300 hours and stuff, you don't have the students that you used to have coming through those doors, even trying to train for those programs.
We actually only, in Illinois, we used to have it in all of our schools, and we actually only have it in one school now, only because the instructor has been with me for 30 years, and I just don't have the heart to say goodbye to her. So we keep that program going with like 5 students in it, seriously. There's no way you can get through the book. There's no way that they can understand what they need to understand. And of all things, nails, you need so much practice to actually stay in it, or you're not going to stay in it. I think that's the one field that if they don't get enough practice, they're not going to stay in it more than any other, more than cosmetology, aesthetics.
Any other discipline that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just stating the truth.
And do a lot of damage.
Do a lot of damage.
And also the lack of confidence. They're not doing enough.
Yeah, they
practical.
Won't stay in
They
it.
don't have any confidence, and they'll walk out of there just saying, I'm not ready.
Right. So that is a waste of their money because they're coming to school, they don't have the practice that they need in order to graduate. Or they can graduate, but they don't have the practice in order to get into a salon and actually make money. And so they just drop out. So then they owe, they do owe us money. Or, if we finance them, they're going to owe us money, or if they finance themselves.
It's a waste.
It's a waste of their time, actually. That's why there are no schools in Illinois. And the few that there are, we've got like 5-6 students in them, and that's it. You can't pay for an instructor, let alone a building or your overhead nowadays. To have a school is absolutely phenomenal, as you all know. All the school owners know what it costs to, have a building, and you've got to have it all. You can't teach the students out in the street.
Any numbers? Any additional comments? So it sounds like, or it looks like, most of the people are in favor of keeping the hours. So I'd like to see a motion to reject the reduction of hours.
Taylor Trump-McCormick, I'd like to make a motion to reject the proposal to reduce the hours of the Now Technology license to, I believe it was 400, or is it 300? To 400.
Do we have a second?
This is Kai Stanton. I second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 7, review and possibly formulate for submission to the legislature to refine the definition of cosmetological establishments. The law subcommittee will discuss the definition of cosmetological establishments and what changes might be needed. Any discussion?
This is Kai Stanton. One of the things that, as far as the establishment goes, I would really like to discuss the manicuring area. Are we really in compliance regarding the floors of the salon? Also, just the safekeeping of the salon as a whole. I know that's part of the laws and the requirements, but as far as the clean, making sure paint and debris, things of that nature, aren't affecting people walking, damaging of the floors, making sure that no one is injured. I think that's important for us to look at.
I'm not sure. I don't think I understand. Is that as someone who oversees facilities at our school, we all do our part to make sure, and I think that that's something that is more of a, I don't know, kind of common sense for a liability standpoint. I'm not quite sure that I understand.
Let me clarify.
Thank you, because I was getting ready to say I was a little confused on.
There are some establishments that the floors are chipped up. There are gouges and there's issues. So as you're walking, you can hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That can cause clients to slip and fall, twist their ankle, things of that nature. So are we being diligent across the board in making sure that's happening? What's common sense for one isn't common sense for the other. And so we want to make sure that we're highlighting and clarifying, because what I'm finding is a lot of things are not clarified. And so if we clarify them accordingly, it's less issues and there won't be any concern moving forward as far as not knowing, or I didn't know that was a liability, or things of that nature. I would love for all of us to have been raised with amazing same equal information, and that's what we translate as common sense, but unfortunately, we all have a different view of, our certain understandings, and so I think if we clarify things, as simple as it may be, I think it's a lot easier to make sure things are done across the board. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, mine's opposite. Mine's completely different. So I just feel like there's we can't go chasing down every person who works in their home. And that's not something that we even would begin to do. But, there is there's this big underground that happens here with people who work from their homes. And at the end of the day, I do think that it's something that should at least be addressed when it comes to what we consider a cosmetology establishment. I mean, something that's just so easy to identify, like, hey, nobody working from their home would be like a cosmetology establishment. Clearly defined. We don't have to get into what you do, how you do. If you're working in your home, the state board's not going to approve you. Mm-hmm. So if you're going into people's homes, then just know right then and there that is not a licensed facility. And I think if we could just get it down to where it's just clearly pinpointed, it would be very helpful for the general public if someone chose to use it. So when it comes to this, defining it, I think it would not hurt to add that to, as like a number 4. Private residents are not considered or not licensed. So.
Just to bring clarity to it.
Right.
Right now, we do allow people to have it in their home, not in their home.
If it's a separate
room.
Right.
But it has to be delineated, it has to be closed off from the house and all. But you're talking about not having it in the home.
in the home
Okay.
because they're in the kitchen because a lot of people are actually working in their home. Their kids are running around, they're cooking spaghetti, they're like doing the most, and it's people really think, well, they're licensed, so this is where they work. The end. And there's no we have nothing to really reference clearly that says, just so you know.
It's interesting. We had a client come over to the school and get a service done, and this is years ago. And she says she was glad she found us, but two, she had went on Instagram, Facebook, something, and some person had posted an ad, and so she answered the ad, and she went to her house, and she thought, this is not right. This is an apartment complex, and so her gut should have told her, intuition, but she didn't, and she went and got the service done. She was totally dissatisfied, and it was a big mess, but I said, you have to understand and know it's in her apartment and her kids are running around. And you have to use the same bathroom that everybody else is using. It's not a salon, babe. So, yeah, I agree. It does need to be very
And do
clear.
I expect the general public to go, hey, this is an apartment complex, let me pull up the Nevada state law? I don't expect that. But what I do expect is that when we find someone who is pretending to not be aware, then it's clearly stated, you're not supposed to be doing these services in your home. And when we go through these meetings, I don't know, it failed me, it must have slipped past me, how could I just don't know how I missed it. It's just something to have as a reference to say, do you have your law book? It's right there.
Go Kai.
She's good for, do you have a law book? I just think it would not hurt us to have that clearly stated here, especially with the amount of mobile services that are taking place and the amount of people who are working from their home.
I'm sorry, I walked out and came back in, but I don't know if you had already discussed. I believe that the city of Las Vegas won't allow you to work in your home even if we license you. Even if you're set up just perfectly and everything, they'll say, no, it's residential, you're not getting anything from us. So.
Gary Landry, Executive Director. One thing we can do, and I think it's good to have those things brought out, we can in the guide, not the law, but the guide is where we can define things a lot better because we can get more specific. We could take and put both not allowing it to be in a home, it's not a cosmetological establishment if it's in the home, not separated. And then two, put the criteria for floors, as you're asking for, Kai, put the criteria for floors and talk about how it's to be clean, to be neat, it's not supposed to have chips and all this other stuff, so we can get it more clarified. That we can do much easier than taking it through the legislature, is doing the changes in the guides. So I'd be willing to when we do the work on the NAC section, not the NRS section, with NAC, to have those things called out, and we can take and put those as part of the review for when we're going to redo the guide.
I think it's a good start for, the home part, but I'm going to tell you, we have some Instagram stars, 22,000 people followed, and these people are raking in a constant stream of income through their front door. And so, the guide, I think if that's where we start, that's fine. But I do think that this residential business plan that people are kind of taking on needs to be addressed somewhere where we can, when they do come before us, if we do get a violation or some court, it's just right there, plain and simple, that you're not. So as a starting point, yes, but I think we'll revisit it later.
Yeah, the only reason I say do it the guide rather than the law, we can do it in the law, but I can tell you, depending on who gets into power this next election cycle, will be if it's the right group, I can take it very easily through there. If it's not the right group, it's not going to go. It won't get out of committee.
Do you think that we'd get kickback from people like saying, hey, this is the law for the city of Las Vegas? Why would it be such a big push or a big ruffling feathers for it to be streamlined down to and interpreted in our law books? Because it's basically what I've heard, city law, right? So you can't operate in your residence. So I feel like it's...
I can tell you just from my knowledge of the politicians and what they think, if they have an R in front of their name, they're not going to want to have any restrictions on the home. If they have a D in front of their name or following their name, they're more than willing to do what you're wanting. So it depends if the R's and the D's are in power, and that's basically how either get it through or don't get it through. It's whoever's in power.
This is Kai Stanton. I do agree with the first step of creating an alteration to an NAC versus going forward with an NRS. I do think that once we have a good track record of how well it's being received and how well we're having success rates on less violations, etc., maybe in the future, then we can take that data information and say, this is some of the wonderful things that we have received from creating a regulation. And so hopefully that will give it a little bit more support to the bill.
Well, respectfully, we're not going to see violations for people's homes because we don't inspect them.
Right.
Like, and we're not actually looking for them. This is to have it clearly defined in here when we do see that people are operating and building these mega businesses. It is easy to post something online and social media that is a snapshot of an NRS, and really it's publicly seen. Like, people, well, you know, that's something to look into. Because just like someone can post on Instagram, I can hashtag an NRS and post it, you know, Instagram just the same. And it's very effective. So it's getting that in writing, making it the law, because how we use it is it's definitely going to be interpreted differently. But when you're in an industry where you're trying to build your clientele and someone is racking up people off the street through Instagram, social media, and they're working from their house, they have no overhead, it is, you know, it is detrimental, I think, to these students.
Can I just say something? Because we always hear when we go to inspections, they always say, why don't state board do something about people working in their homes?
Yeah.
They say that to us all
Not
the
much
time.
You don't want Pam Fitzgerald showing up at your house.
Well, we never.
I know.
You give me a bad, you gotta give me a gun. Okay.
There's not much you can do.
But we can't do anything. You have to go to your local, because the law does say in the NAC 644375, a place of practice, it does say a private resident in which cosmetology is practiced must be located in a geographical area in which the practice of cosmetology is allowed by local zoning ordinance. If the private residence is not located in such an area, the owner must receive a variance from the appropriate local governing body before applying to the board for a license of cosmetology. So, and that's what we tell them.
And this is Kai Stanton. Thank you. I'm sorry. I want to be very clear. I do not want inspectors in a private residential home area. It is not safe. I am 110%. No, I just want to be clear. I don't want that conversation to move that direction at all. I just want to make sure that we have a good starting point on the regulations, and then hopefully supporting that law in which you just expressed. So the description of breaking it down in regulation, supporting the law you just read, I think is just a starting point for us to move forward.
So if you guys get complaints about someone running one in a household, you can go in and send it to the correct agency.
Yeah, so we'll send out a cease and desist to everybody, and Nina sends all of them out, but it's usually you'll get the letter, you'll get a screenshot of whatever you're posting, you'll get a copy of the NRS, NAC, you get the whole bit, and then about 99% of the time you're ignored, and then you send it out again until someone complains, you know. There's been times we've turned it over to business licensing. There's times it'll go over to, you know, zoning. They're not super communicative, like back and forth, so I don't know what really happens after that. But business licensing has been pretty helpful, because we'll say they don't have one from us, and then they'll say, well, we thought they did, and they can fine a lot more than we can issue citations. So we've done that a few times, especially with threading establishments have been helpful.
Well, this is Benita with Euphoria. I would imagine that if there's someone operating in an Instagram star, right? Operating, that 9 out of 10 times she's got a braider's license, a Cosmo license, an esthetician, some sort of licensing to brand themselves on Instagram, and they're working from home, whatever. Maybe. I would say 85% maybe. Wouldn't it be that the board would send a letter because they are a licensee?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I would say actually maybe about 4 or 5% of the time they're actually a licensee. They're real small.
It's the other way around.
The other way.
Oh,
Yeah, the other way.
Unlicensed
people
who took a course in eyelash extensions.
Right.
And,
Online.
and they want to put on
Online, yeah.
eyelashes because they just finished this wonderful course that they just did.
Yeah.
or heaven forbid, they're taking courses in microblading.
On
And so
YouTube.
they're
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are the people that work from home. They're not licensed.
Yeah, they're not licensed.
And what's
Oh.
more difficult is, you're not going to try to draw people to your home, right? So you'll say, call me at this number.
Yeah.
And then it's not your real name. And then it's not, and, it just becomes, and then as soon as you call and
It's all very convoluted.
Exactly.
And what I'll
Even
say
if they
is
come
that
in front of the board, what can you do? They're not licensed.
They'll never
You can't
get
say,
it.
they're licensed. You can't say they'll
Exactly.
never get a
So it's an
license. They
internal
won't
thing. It's
qualify.
really not something that people who catch these people who are like, even me if I am like, hey, this person really shouldn't be doing this, I'm not going to contact state board to go run down an unlicensed person. You're going to basically combat them however they're, promoting themselves. And so just whatever tools are out there for our licensed professionals to self-govern in that way is really helpful to them,
It goes back to educating the public as to what that law states.
Yeah.
And they'll have something to share,
Yeah.
like you were saying.
So Brian Baltazar, my question would be, so we know that the city of Las Vegas has an ordinance that does not permit, practicing these services in a private home. Do we know what other municipality ordinances throughout the state look like? What the county, what they have in the books as far as?
I think the city of Las Vegas is the only, if I'm not mistaken, is the only municipality or government organization that has something on the books that says not going to have a business in a private residence. That's the only one.
Some HOAs.
And choice.
Yeah.
This is Kai Stanton. Charlene, do you have something to say?
Yeah, it's really interesting that the city of Reno will allow those beauty salons to be built by their homes, but not Sparks. Sparks will not allow anybody, so if we have also people who come to Sparks, we'll tell them that. I don't know why, but it's the law, books, they will not allow residents.
So the city of Sparks kind of mirrors what the city of Las Vegas has then? Okay.
I don't know about other businesses, but I certainly know about Sparks, yeah.
This is Kai Stanton. Are you finding that there are a lot of salons in the homes? Is that what I'm hearing, that Reno is saying it's okay to have salons at home?
Well, no, we've only got like 5 maybe that have a beauty salon at their house attached to it.
Oh, okay.
Well, regulations, but so they're allowed to do that. They're just not allowed to have more than 2 clients at a time, is typically what I understand. And actually, even though I can say that, some of the housing, management, the home organization type places are not allowed to have. So you do have to check.
This is Kai Stanton. Charlene, I have one more question. None of the inspectors are asked to go into the residential homes, correct? These salons are just an attachment or an add-on, correct? Next to the home. Okay, I just wanted to be clear. I'm saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, and they are licensed then, because they have their licenses.
So, okay, thank you.
So they would be inspected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do have some that are separate and apart.
Yeah.
So we do inspections at that.
Sure.
Yeah, we no way go knock on their
They
door.
just have, they just
No.
have a separate entrance.
No, it's separate.
But if
It's
it's
separate and
a
apart.
licensed establishment, it gets
We go,
inspected.
yes, but never to somebody's home.
So I'm glad the conversation grew. I think I really took us off course, but the whole point was when it comes to this cosmetology establishment, under the definition of what we do not allow, I just wanted it to be clearly stated. If we got to go about it a different way, that's fine. But if we can clearly just put something about residential places, I think that would be awesome. But we'll go about it the way that Gary recommended. We're not going to get data from that. Let's be realistic, because we don't inspect in homes, and I'm not suggesting that we do. I'm just looking for something that, like we said, we teach and arm each other, licensees. When you have a complaint, this is the channels that you take, and to be able to easily find this defined in our books is an asset to our licensees who are out there doing things the right way. And so I want it to be clearly put there. And I've seen that in the book as well, but
embedded in this long paragraph. And it's not just cleared. Hey, you're not supposed to work it in your house.
Right.
You know? So if we were, in competition and you're working in your house and I'm struggling to make my Bruce rent and all of this, and I'm like, I really don't think that's fair. There's something simple to pinpoint. That's it. So however we go about it, it's the discussions out there.
I think we can do it through the NAC, get that in, then you have one tool to use, and when we prove that's successful, then we can put it in NRS. It's much easier to get it in NAC than NRS, a lot less pushback on it.
Good.
So Brian Baltazar, my question is, so how quickly can we see these, with the inclusion of that fourth, how quickly can we see that in NAC? And let's say we do get positive feedback, would we have enough time to potentially propose that in a legislative bill? No, we would miss the deadline.
Yeah, we have to have these. We should have these at the July meeting. We'll vote on them, and they're going to go immediately to the legislators to get them pushed into law, because they start putting, by August, you pretty much have to have your stuff in to the legislators that know they're going to get reelected. Those that aren't, those that are coming in later will work later, but if you want to get in and get it done, you have to have it by August.
Okay. So
and that's only law, that's NRS.
Yeah, that's NRS.
Right.
The second NAC, so it would appear in 644-038 as a number 4.
Yeah, and the NAC, there's a way. I'll just briefly tell you, when the legislature is going through session, if you need something done in NAC, you can do an emergency measure. You don't need any legislative approval. You go through the board meetings, you get the wording done, you then get it adopted at the board meeting, and it goes into the NAC. Even though it's not published in the NAC, it's in it as an emergency measure.
I don't consider it an emergency, but we are reducing hours. There's going to be more students coming in. It's going to be positive, positive, positive. With that, we want to push continuing education, but we also want to make sure that we're clearly defining their scope. And so I think they all go hand in hand. More students, less hours. Let's make sure that their boundaries are pretty clear. And if we're not doing that, then we should really take a look at the whole scope of pushing more people out faster and making sure they're aware of what their law is.
Is there any way to do both? To do an NAC and NRS in case
I'll do whatever you want. Whatever you tell me to do from a board, that's what I do. I'm just telling you, if we try and push it in the NRS, depends on who's in power.
Right. Well, my thought process behind pushing both is in case the bill were to fail, we at least have an NAC that mirrors what we were hoping to do legislatively.
Just let you know, if the bill fails, if we go in with something under NRS for the cosmetological establishment, if that causes the bill to fail, then the reduction in hours, everything else that you want to have done will fail also.
I don't want to do that because we're
enforcing something in NAC is the same. You have this. It's just as enforceable as an NAC as it is in NRS.
The only difference between NRS and NAC for unique events that are not the same for everyone. Someone says, I have to have it in my home because of this, and this. They can come and petition the board, and the board can grant it or not grant it. So that's the only thing you can do with NAC. Right. NRS, you can't do any, just like we had the meeting yesterday, that $20 late fee.
Can't touch
you cannot touch it. You can't relieve it. You can't do anything with it.
That was painful.
So NAC, it sounds like.
Yeah, NAC.
All right. So
do I have to make a motion on that?
Yes.
Please.
With
long one. You don't make a motion? No. Okay, great. To a trauma comic, I'd like to make a motion to add a definition for residential, operating a business out of a residential property to NAC 644-038 as item number 4.
This is Kai Stanton. I second that motion.
We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to agenda item 8, review the continuing education requirements for instructors. Do we have any discussion down here in the South first?
This is Kai Stanton. The spirit of this originally is to give instructors the opportunity to accumulate CEU credits that are not connected with an institute. My goal is to make sure that everyone is given equal education and an opportunity to build on their skills accordingly. And so I want to be able to develop these skills so that our students are successful and they come out feeling like they can accomplish whatever they have went to school for. So it's very important that we educate the educator on making sure not only are we creating an environment, an educational environment for our students, but that our communication is up to par and that we are also building on our licenses as well. As we all know, our industry changes quite frequently with all of the product lines that come out on almost seems like to me a daily basis. So the spirit of this is to make sure that we can offer education not just to the students or cosmetologists, but also that the instructor, the core of the education, is not overlooked as well. I think this will benefit all of us as a whole. This does not take away anything from the schools at all. This just provides an extra avenue for the educator as well.
So I'm a little bit unclear. This is Mark from Euphoria Institute. So instructors are required to get continuing education units.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the hour change in the PIL training, is
Yeah.
that it?
Yeah, the hours changed in the PIL, that's already in. That went in as 2015.
That's in there.
The way it's stated now is that they have to take courses approved by the board. It's the last sentence in there. And item number 2, the hours of continuing education must be obtained in courses approved by the board during each 2-year period of his or her license. So those courses that are approved by the board is I think what Kai is talking about, and how broad, how wide, how narrow should that be to allow them to have the most amount of flexibility in choosing these courses.
So, but my understanding is that anyone who is an educator, for instance, we have an educator, his name is Sean Glassberg, he runs educational training and consulting, and he has nothing to do with cosmetology whatsoever, but he's petitioned the board and he has an approved curriculum by the board to offer classes to teach our educators. So are you saying that not limiting it to just cosmetology and aesthetics and nail technology as far as providing continuing education units, or is that, am I understanding?
So this is Kai Stanton. So in the following areas, you are required 30 hours for CEU credits in order to renew. Mm-hmm. As an instructor, if you are not connected with an institute at all, it is very difficult to find classes, not just on that list. Sometimes that list says it's only for a day, or this class is only available for, X, Y, and Z amount of time. What this does is open a curriculum for those that are not connected with an institute or don't have those avenues to be able to still obtain those 30 hours.
Yeah, so if you're not
Right, okay.
employed.
So the list that we were thinking of, number one area would be science. Number 2, another area would be health. Number 3, another area would be business. Number 4, technology. 5, education or teaching methods. Number 6, language. Number 7, advanced cosmetology. So if that class has been approved for CEU accreditations and it's on the list, absolutely we'll accept that. If you are currently still in college, absolutely we will accept that as well. If there is something else you're looking for, we are just hoping to provide, I would like to say on a dessert table, there are many different desserts. This is just another wonderful dessert on that table.
So I'm a licensed instructor. but I'm not associated with the school, I'm not employed by a school, I need to get my CEUs, and so I can take any class that's approved on the website or by the board to obtain those CEUs, those 30 CEUs that we need as educators.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Man.
You know, the problem is we've got everyone out here running around talking about their trainer.
Exactly.
And so, you know, that's a touchy one, because when you start opening that up, then my Uncle Gary here is teaching me something in his kitchen, and I took his course, and then boom.
But it's not approved by, if it's not approved by the board, then
It has to be approved.
Yeah,
by
this isn't.
So you're not trying to like make it open to like everybody.
No, and this is Kai Stanton. I'm sorry.
We know you're.
I know. It's amazing. So this, and I'm very happy that you asked that question. This is classes that are provided by state board.
Got it.
This is not, I went to Holly's class and she just graduated and this is what we're doing. This actually puts things in a better, I strongly believe in a better scope, and making sure that the instructors are receiving proper education that is being provided.
So by state board
Meaning,
They submit to us a curriculum, what's being taught, how's being taught, what are the passing scores and all. All of those things have to be given to us. We evaluate it and we either approve it or not.
So how's that different from the criteria now?
So are you just saying that you would advertise a way for other people to be able to do that? I don't. Yeah.
Because it's not different from
So-
what we have to do to get a.
But right now, unless you are employed by a school, really as an educator, it's hard for them to get it's hard for them to get their CEUs. So maybe it sounds like it's more about making sure that the licensed professional knows, or teacher knows, that they have this as an option, and not like our teachers. It's relatively simple for them to get their 30 CEUs. They come to the in-services, the classes have been approved by the board, boom, they got it. But what about, Gwen, who no longer works for us?
Right.
And so she's trying to figure out, where can I get these classes? I need to know about these classes. I'm not with the school.
So how are we changing that information? See, what I'm understanding, I get what you're saying, but what I'm understanding is that you're talking about the actual courses themselves, not how we get the information to the instructors, that they exist.
right, so what's happening is the education that's being provided right now, as was stated, there is very difficult and very limited classes for that. So what we're doing is taking classes. Adam is going to create some classes online as well that they can take, that the state board has already pre-approved. Now, what is happening already that is current on the state board list, where they can submit and say, this is my class, that's not going to change. That's what we're saying. We're not taking anything away. We're just adding to.
So adding some online resources, or
right?
Or I don't, because I don't understand. Like, is it just about getting the word out to people that would be interested in providing education?
Yeah.
Because anyone that's interested, or anyone who has a vested interest in our industry,
can do it now, right?
Does it. If we're on the list, we could provide education, right? So I guess I don't understand really what's changing. Aside from the board adding online resources, which I think is absolutely fabulous idea, because just like you can get your sanitation credits online, watching the video, answering the questions, taking the test, what have you. Perhaps there would be some good health or some good business ones that could become CEU worthy, I'll say, to provide someone who is close to their end of their renewal and they're 4 hours short or something like that in an emergency type of a situation. But I just don't understand what it is that would change, because those people that want to provide education to instructors, they can. All they have to do, it's pretty simple to get approved.
This is just adding it online. Exactly what you have explained.
Okay.
That's what we're doing. We're just adding another, just like sanitation that you can take online, this would be something else you can take online next to sanitation.
Are you saying add a course online?
Yes, that's what we were talking to Adam about, unless I'm
But that's what I'm trying to, because now we're saying that we're going to develop a course and put it online, and that's not. I don't think that we.
I think I might have this. For example, we went to Pryor and did some educational classes with them. However, they have a module of about maybe 4,000 different classes that can be taught. But Gary, the state board website would say that Pryor is a provider for CEUs, and you can go to Pryor and take those classes. Almost just like it is now, you can pick out different providers. Because they do have online training. I guess they're just giving an option so that you can look on our board website and see who these people are.
And right now we don't advertise who they are.
Well, it's public information.
Yeah, it's on our website. Just so I'm understanding, our website shows and has a list.
Like ETC is on there.
Right,
we're on
yeah, of everyone that offers courses for instructors that can be applied toward their continuing education requirement. Which, by the way, I'll give you some numbers here too. But we've also added even the universities, because we do say they can take a course in science or health or business. So when they take any one of those courses, of course, we look at the hours that they've submitted. So they may not be specific to a cosmetology anything, but they may be specific to just teaching methodology, so just whatever that may be. Anyone, technology, education, language, advanced, some of those courses. So we just put the school, we'll put UNLV on there. We'll put,
I see.
Yeah, the university, whatever we know that they can actually go to. If they're going to the Clark County, the CCSB, any one of their courses, as long as it's taught, as long as what they learned is either health, science, business, technology, we give them credit. It's in our NAC, so we have to give them credit for that. So they're furthering their education as far as an instructor, not necessarily in cosmetology, but they're furthering their education. So we have all the courses listed that are non-specific to a university or a local college, but we also have the colleges themselves. So we don't have a course per se that we can say you're going to get 30 continuing education credits for this, if that's what you're going for. And just to tell you, when Gary changed the law, well, you didn't change the law, Gary, but when the law got changed last year. So we used to say you had to have 30 in the law and 30 in the reg. Well, now we have, the law now says that the instructor has to complete the number of hours of continuing education, basically, that mirrors what NACAS requires.
Right.
Well, when Nadine's the one that puts all the, does all the approval of the courses, and then she puts them on our website. So when Nadine and I were reviewing what actually does NACAS approve for their instructors, when it comes down to it, NACAS actually, their requirements are actually less than what we require.
Right.
They're actually saying 12 hours per year. So that's only 24. And we're saying in NAC that they actually have to do 30. So if we continue our pattern, as we've done in the past, which we just continue to do, the law itself is actually giving the instructors a leeway of coming back and saying, hey, your law says I only have to do 24, but your reg says I have to do 30. So we're actually asking for an extra 6 hours in a way. And that's why I gave you this, because we are asking for this amount where NACA says you don't really have to.
Right.
We're not saying that they're breaking the law or anything like that. We're just saying that we've taken an extra step to give them an extra 6 hours of education that they're required to prove to us so that they can get their license.
So we're not going to create something that they can see. So say, for example, if they have maybe 2 hours they need for CEU accreditations or 5 hours left for CEU accreditations and they didn't have time to enroll in college or what have you, will there be anything online that will make things a little bit easier? Maybe that's like an hour course or so, that just like something mimicking sanitation, disinfection, those of that nature. Can we create maybe 1 or 2 of those online, or would that be too much?
So we will have a list of online courses. We haven't thought about doing them for accreditation, but it'd be easy to add a testing element to make them ready for accreditation. We're going to have a series of videos that are going to explain every part of the sanitation process, start to finish, in salons, in nail tech schools, for eyelash extensions, for every part of what you're doing. We're going to have that in. We'll probably have, I don't know how many videos we're talking about.
Oh man.
Maybe 20, 30.
Right. So to bridge these, will they get credit for it then?
If that's what the board wants us to do, we can add a testing element to that to make it for credit.
Well, I think that'd be great. I think that's what you're asking, right? All right.
Thank you. I just want to be able to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to receive education in the scope that it's within. So that's why it's clearly laid out.
Yeah, my confusion was that I was like, what are you asking for that's different? But that's what's the difference.
Right.
The curriculum that hasn't even been created yet is the difference. And so when that's introduced, we're asking for credits to be assigned to those online courses that are provided online.
And that's all in development.
Yes.
Yes.
So what kind of motion do we need?
So this is for the hours, correct, Monica?
Do you want to ask if they have any comments? Because I don't think they've spoken.
Yeah, do we have comments? I'm sorry.
Do we have comments in the north?
They hate us.
I'm sorry.
My comment would be, so are we staying with 30 or are we going to 24? That's what I'm not clear on.
We're staying with 30. Current time, we're staying at 30.
And then this is basically for future, that this is a way that they can get the 24 if they haven't done whatever they want to do of their own accord.
Exactly.
Barry, when do you anticipate those rolling out or being available?
I saw the first 2 yesterday, and then the rest of them will probably be done in the next 2 months. The video quality is excellent. It's, yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess, would you like to make a motion?
Sure.
Don't know what kind of motion to make here.
Motion.
Taylor Shaw McCormick, I'd like to make a motion to assign continuing education credits to the upcoming online tutorials and videos provided by the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology.
This is Kai Stanton, and I probably second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. Second to last, agenda item number 9. Any comments by committee members?
The one thing I would suggest is that if you want to have any other topics discussed, we discuss them at the July meeting. We'll call that meeting for an adjournment. We'll pause that meeting, or if it was legal time we have to do to stop it. We'll have a meeting, a public meeting in the middle of the board meeting to discuss all the things that have been done throughout the whole year, putting all the agenda items on. You'll take a vote on that, each one individually, discuss and take a vote, so we'll know what we have to do to prepare the law changes. Then you'll adjourn that meeting, go back to the board meeting. So whatever you want to do, be very specific, because we're not going to have a lot of time to discuss it. If you want to add anything to it, if you're done with the discussion of the law, that's great. We don't have to discuss anything more. If you want to add something to the topic, just be very specific about what that topic would be.
Okay.
When do we start now?
Go right ahead.
Okay, Taylor Shaw McCormick, for future consideration at our next board meeting, I would like to find out the status of adding perming. I didn't know if it went in as an NAC. I didn't really see it in the definition of aesthetics. We have a lot of lash lift. It's like a big boom right now. And I'm getting a lot of requests from unlicensed individuals to take training courses, etc. So I think it would be important to have that defined under aesthetics. I know that we had put it in there, or somewhere in there it had come up, perming, tinting, eyelash extensions in the definition, but I want to make sure that it's actually added. I think the time is very much like right now to make sure that that's clear.
This is Kai Stanton. I would like to take a look in the future at NRS 644. 190, talking about photographers, speaking regarding their services, making sure that we are very clear on what that scope working with a photographer looks like. So I really believe that should be defined.
And I would just to say, I would suggest we do that in the regs and not in the law.
Okay.
It would be much easier to get through.
I agree. Okay.
Anything else? Brian Baltazar, I'm hoping to see if maybe board staff can help in kind of looking into the rest of the country's barber boards and which states have combined boards between the Board of Cosmetology and the barber board, and also examine how we feel about pedicure fish.
Absolutely not.
And you know that there's a salon that was doing that.
Really?
I screened. Yeah, on Facebook.
Not here.
One of the students went in.
Here.
Yeah, here. One of the
Where?
Here. Here. One of the students went in and posted on the page, "I really want a pedicure, a fish pedicure." And the one responded to her, "Well, there's a place on blank diddy blank that does it." And I snapped and I submitted it.
Is this recently?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my God. Wow, really?
Get on
No
it,
denying
Pam.
that. When you're busted, you're busted. I mean, try to get all those fish out. You don't do
Go
that.
rent shop.
It's not really, they talk, so they have a
Yeah,
yeah, right?
He said go rent shop.
I'll tell you one thing we did with the fish pedicure
Yeah,
in the legislative
that
session
before.
last time.
Yeah, we did that.
We
So
got
now-
out of it by taking and telling them not to call it fish pedicure, to call it fish treatment or fish whatever they want. Just don't use the word pedicure, so they're not in our jurisdiction, because they don't do
Yeah,
pedicures.
no.
All they do is you stick your foot and let the
Bite
fish
the
eat the
dead
dead
skin.
skin,
Yeah.
and that's it. They don't treat, they don't do anything with your nails or anything.
Right, but that would be like Peter would have a problem with that because number one, you have to starve the fish to make them eat. To eat the dead skin, they have to
We
be.
didn't say how you're going to get it approved. We just wanted to get out of our jurisdiction. We got it out of our jurisdiction and field the committee.
Oh, crap.
How is that comforting? That's what I was
Disgusting.
Yeah, my dog would get my feet, let alone
All right, and so an additional thing that I think some of the board members would actually like to see is the hiring process of board staff. I think the sentiment is that we'd like to be a little more involved as far as staffing of the board in general, when it comes to hiring and relieving of duties.
That's all positions or certain positions?
I think across the board is what we'd like to see.
Okay.
Or do you have any comments on
I
that?
have 0. I've spoken already, so I'm good.
All right, I believe that is it for now. So, do we have any additional comments?
I have a comment, and I don't know if you already talked about it here in Nevada or not, but in Illinois, they added barbering to the cosmetology schools where we can teach either or both. And I don't know if it's ever been brought up here, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, that many of the schools now have added barbering, which we're planning on doing with one of our schools. So we have cosmetology, barbering, aesthetics, and it just gives us more, that we can offer to the students.
I think that's part of the combination effort that Brian's talking about, would be to have the ability to have cosmetology school, a barbering school, or a combined school. And that the only way you're going to do that is to combine the boards, because I can assure you 100% that the barber board will never want to have a combined school.
Nope. Be ready for a fight.
West Side Story.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's crazy.
I have a question. I just wanted to follow up on something we had talked about before. I didn't know if it's on the agenda already, but at the last conversation we talked about, it was brought up about possibly having a license for natural hair. Is that still a topic of discussion?
It's not been discussed or brought up as a possible topic of discussion. I know that Gwen has been very strong in wanting to do something on that. We've not moved forward with it, so if we're going to do something, it's going to have to be very quick to get it all researched and done by the July meeting. So if you want to have it on the July meeting, we can add it to the July meeting, but it's not been brought up and discussed as a topic.
Okay. And then the second part was when we reduced the number of hours for cosmetology program, we forgot to reduce when they could take live clients, right? So we were supposed to put it into this law.
It was changed to be 10%.
10% of their contracted
so
time.
it's been reduced
Yes.
already. Yes. It's been effective.
As of
Yes.
January
Sure.
1st,
We still don't.
Okay.
it's
Good.
160 hours. Is
We're doing
after 160 hours for a cosmetology student, they can take live clients.
At
If you
180.
feel like
So 100, so 10% down, 1,600 hours, they could do it 160 now. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Charlene, did you have a comment?
Right, only if they qualify.
Didn't think about it, because aesthetics hours, we also need to reduce the apprenticeship hours. If it goes to 600, they need to be 1,200.
That was part of it, wasn't it? Wasn't that a part of the last?
Well, to reduce the cosmetology apprentice, because we reduced the 1,600.
I thought you talked about that.
Any more specialty licenses, you guys know what's about to happen next, right? I'm gonna start kind of eyelash extensions again. You guys, that was a dark time for all of us. It was a dark time for everyone.
No, hair designer thinks the same.
You know what, it's not, it's,
Hair design the same, right?
I'm gonna, but if something slips
No,
in
but
there,
is it
I'm
still
gonna be like,
10% of the time
Hand
before
out.
before they can work on the clients, or is it still?
Oh.
I feel like 10%.
I don't think that ever got changed. Like, here was gonna do it. They had talked about it the last one.
Because wasn't it 300 at one time?
Yes.
Is it still at 300?
I
You're gonna
believe
touch
so.
the eyes, then you're going to be doing perming, tinting. You're gonna learn all of that under the scope of eyelash management.
We have one more, if we could.
Hello?
We have,
No, I think we backpedaled into, I guess, adding, comments by the board.
we have one just generally, I think it's more inspection related, but so everybody's aware, the biggest issue we have in terms of compliance, apart from people working from their homes, relates to NAC 644-307, which covers leasing of space. We have a lot of people trying to do a lot of things in one room. And that becomes difficult for a lot of reasons. We might license it as a Cosmo establishment because you're doing lashes. Then you're going to put a sign up and say, I'm actually doing a tattoo right now. Then there might be a sign up that says, I'm actually doing massage right now. And that's difficult when an inspector comes, are you doing massage or tattooing right now? Because that's not our business. And we can't have our inspectors wait for X hours till you're done to get in there. And then if we allow you to share the room, we also run into other issues in the regs where we're saying now you have pretty much unlicensed paraphernalia in there. Needles, for example. Why would that be in there? Or straight razors or what have you. So we don't want to limit people because some people, you don't have that much money, you're going to booth rent somewhere. But at the same time, we're running into problems where people, we have tarot card readers, dog groomers, yoga instructors. You name it, we're doing it in there. Yeah.
And this one person will have the licenses for each.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
massage, tattoo.
And now microblading.
And now microblading.
Yeah,
Microblading, big thing.
That's the new thing now.
Yeah, so maybe I guess on our end, one thing to think about in the future is maybe the way this is phrased could be a lot more straightforward. The word lease is in here. We talk about otherwise located. What's that mean? So maybe cleaning up that language in the future would be great because that really is the number one problem we're having right now.
Yeah.
It's an NAC or NRS?
That's
It's NAC 644 and 307. Yeah. That was, we have, it's just crazy. It's too many.
So if we could, I guess, add that.
I'll put that on the NAC list. The NRS is what I'm really concerned with because that's going to go to the legislature.
Right.
The NAC stuff, we can work and start getting that stuff done. Like after the July meeting, the October meeting, we can start NAC meetings for the law review, or not the reg review instead of the law review.
Okay. Is that where we'll hear the natural hair licensing and as well as the
wash your hands, ma'am.
That would be interesting. Those are the things for NRS.
So we want to add those
Yeah.
now.
I think that's
Okay.
natural hair extensions was at the last meeting. And we had talked about, I was just bringing time up, and we had talked about hair design at that point too, about possibly reducing it from the 1,200 hours to either 900 or 1,000. Is that something we're also considering, or is that just not a topic of interest at this time? I'm just trying to make sure the notes from the last meeting that we talked about, where we're at with that.
That hasn't been brought up to discuss as a formal subject. We can do it.
Okay.
Just make sure, we're getting a lot of new topics at the end. I just want to make sure we get through it in one meeting.
Yes.
Or we may have to call a special separate meeting. We may have to call a meeting the day after the board meeting to get it done. All board members would have to stay at that point because we have to get a quorum to be able to have a vote on that issue.
Okay.
So
if we're not moving forward, then I'm good knowing, but if we are, then I just want to be up to speed on what's.
So if we were to do what you're suggesting, or maybe not suggesting, so we would have the primary board meeting, a continuation board meeting, and then after that, the law review, so it'd be 3 meetings back to that. Okay.
I would not suggest that. That would be my suggestion. I'm just saying if we have too much stuff to talk about and we don't get it done, we've got to get out of that room at 4:30. So, those are the time requirements we have to get all the stuff done and discussed.
Could I ask a question really quick? You said 10% of the time before they can work on the public as a cosmetologist. How about the hair designer? How about the esthetician? It's 10% across the board now. Did not know that. Thank you for that information.
That went in as of January 1st.
Oh, okay. A little late.
Thank you, guys.
Wait.
Any addition?
You need to
Gavel
call
us.
for a motion to adjourn the meeting. So it's
All right.
adjourned.
Would one of you two ladies like to call for a motion to adjourn?
We've been doing good. Kai Stanton, I would like to
Raise your voice just a little higher.
Kai Stanton! To the Trauma Corps, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
This is Kai Stanton. I second that motion.
The real Kai.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're adjourned.
Interesting.